In this video I'm going to walk you through the migration process from CCH Portal to CCH OneClick from the point of view of you as the practice. And then in a separate video I'm going to pretend to be your clients and I'm going to show you the migration process from their perspective. So let's get started. Firstly, I've already installed CCH OneClick. So if you haven't yet installed OneClick and haven't watched our previous videos, you might like to do that now. So let's get started with the migration. To begin with, let's go File, Maintenance, and scroll down and find OneClick. And let's look at the options that we have in the menu here. Let's start with Terms and Conditions. If you have Terms and Conditions for CCH Portal, then you may want to review them for CCH OneClick. These here are my Portal Terms and Conditions, and down here I refer to the word Portal. So I'm going to need to update my terms and conditions before I run the migration. If you're not using terms and conditions within Portal, you may choose not to use them within OneClick. They are entirely optional. One of the questions that practices often ask is what should they include in their terms and conditions. Unfortunately, Wolters Kluwer as a company are unable to provide any advice on what you should or should not say in your terms and conditions. So I'm going to just edit my terms and conditions now. All I'm going to do is copy what I've got there. I'm going to add new terms and conditions, paste them in here, change the word Portal to OneClick. That will be enough for me. My previous terms and conditions were called T and C V1. I'm going to call these T and C V2, and then I'm going to save. Okay. And then I'm going to click here to say these are the current terms and conditions, and I'm prompted with a message saying all users will need to accept their new terms and conditions. That's not a problem. I'm going to click yes and then OK. Let's go back into the File, Maintenance, OneClick menu. The next thing I'm going to look at is email templates. You will see here there are many more email templates than there were for Portal. Some of the templates say they're not used. These are old Portal templates that are no longer required. For instance, the one called Create Portal User, because we now have two new templates, one called Create OneClick Employee, one called Create OneClick Client. The template Create Message is still used. If we double click on that, you will see that the customization that previously existed for this template is no longer there. If you previously had templates in Portal that you had customized, you should make those same customization changes now. You should also go through and customize all the relevant templates you'll be using prior to running the migration. In my case, all I'm going to do is I'm going to add my logo to the top of this email. Now when adding the logo, if I click on the picture icon here, I have two options: upload a logo or insert from a URL. The insert from URL is the best option because some email software will remove the logo when the recipient receives the email otherwise. Now just quickly to show you where you can get the URL of your image or your logo. In my case I use Chrome, and I'm going to open up the web browser and I'm going to go to our website, and I have the logo in the top here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go copy image address. Minimize the internet browser, and then I'm just going to paste that into the URL field, hit OK, and there's my logo, which I can then resize if necessary. I click OK on that. As I say, you should go through and customize all the templates before you run your migration. At a minimum, I would recommend customizing the Create Message template and the template called Convert Portal User to OneClick User. The reason I recommend customizing these two templates right now is if your staff are going to continue using the Portal functionality, or the Messages and Documents functionality as it's now called, between when you install OneClick and when you run the migration, the Create Message template will continue to be used. And when you run the migration, the Convert Portal User to OneClick User is the template that we used. So let's look at the second template here, the Convert Portal User. Double click on that. Firstly, I'm going to make the same change. I'm going to just add the logo from URL. I still got the URL in memory, paste that there, hit OK. The other thing I might do is I might change some of the wording of this. Firstly, this second line is not really necessary for the purposes of the migration, so I'm going to remove that. That line will show your OneClick domain name, which is your portal domain. So for instance, in my case, my domain was in Portal rm1.clientspace.co.uk. It will now be rm2.accountantspace.co.uk, and if I left this in here, the domain would show as rm1. There's no need for me to tell my clients about that at this stage, so I'm just going to get rid of that. The practice name comes from whatever variable you had stored in Portal, which has now been moved over into OneClick, being the name of your practice. If you want, you can hard code that with the name of your practice. The most important part is you leave this link in the email, because that's what your clients will click when they receive the email to be able to create their OneClick account. You might also want to change the end of the email here, where it says if you're unsure what to do, please contact your user contact. I'm going to change that to say, please call me directly on, and I'll just make a phone number. And then this last sentence is not really necessary at the moment either, especially as I've removed the domain from the top part of the email. And then I'm just going to put my name at the bottom. And then hit OK. When complete, we'll click OK to come out of here. We'll go back into File, Maintenance, OneClick. I just want to show you a few other things. Firstly, under Security, to show you that the same settings that I had previously in Portal have been carried forward into OneClick, including the setting about emailing employees when a client sends a message. Click OK on that. Okay, so having updated our terms and conditions if applicable, and having modified the email templates if applicable or if required, we're now ready to run the migration. So the next step is File, Maintenance, OneClick Migration. This screen will load, and the very first step is to click the Database Verification button. This is going to run the same utility that we ran earlier, which was to validate your data prior to migration. You'll see the same screen that we showed in the earlier video. Because you will have run this already as part of your preparation for the migration, you should have a green message saying your data is in good condition to continue. If by chance you didn't run the data validation tool beforehand, or you have now got a message saying your data is unable to be migrated, you will need to check the 4 tabs at the top here to identify what the problems are. If there's anything listed in the first tab, it's more than likely going to be an email address that is invalid, and that is something that you can fix yourself. This tab will show the name of the contact, the email address that's invalid, the contact ID, and possibly some additional information. What you will need to do is edit those contacts, change the email addresses, and then you can start this process again. One thing worth pointing out is that the most common problem with email addresses is that they have been copied from an external application when creating the contact and have a space on the end of them. If this is the case, when removing the space, you will actually have to replace the space with another character, save the change, and then edit the contact again and remove the additional character. Just removing the space doesn't make a difference. As far as CCH is concerned, you haven't made any change at all. Now if you've run this step, the first tab is empty, but you still have a message saying you cannot continue because of data errors. Go through the individual tabs and see which tab or tabs have information listed. If there is data in any of these additional 3 tabs, you will need to log a support case and upload the exported CSV file to that support case for one of our technical staff to review and advise how to correct the data. All going well, you should have a green message saying your data is good to continue, in which case we'll hit Finish, and then we'll hit the Migrate button. Step 1 of the migration is the practice migration. This process will take around about 15 minutes. So I'm going to pause the video now and we'll come back when these three options have changed to green. So once the practice migration is completed, we'll click the next button, and at this stage we're then prompted to create our admin account. The admin account is used to control permissions for what employees can access within the cloud part of CCH OneClick, and will in future be used to control other functionality as well. As the message says, if we don't create the admin account now, we can create it later by going to File, Maintenance, OneClick, Activation after we've completed the migration. But given we've been prompted to do it now, let's go and do that. We'll click on the link. We're asked to enter our customer code and password. This is the same customer code and password used to install OneClick. So if that was done by someone else other than yourself and you're not aware of those details, ask the person who installed OneClick for you. In my case, I've entered my details. I click the Validate Credentials button. It says that I've already successfully set up OneClick, which I have. All I need to do is create the admin account. Do I want to do that now? I'm saying yes. I agree to the terms and conditions, and then I enter my details. Now, important to note, the admin email address that you use here cannot be the same as an email address that you're going to use for an employee that you'll be activating for OneClick after the completion of the migration. So in my case, I have multiple email addresses, so I'm going to use one that is not my employee email address. You might need to use a generic email address like admin at your practice name or something like that. And then I create a password for the admin account. So the important thing to remember here is that the email address and the password you're going to create are going to be used in the future to log into that admin account. So create something that you're going to remember, enter my password, and repeat it. If necessary, review the terms and conditions again, tick that you've read them, and click Continue. As you will be aware, CCH OneClick is charged on a monthly basis by direct debit, and if we don't already have your direct debit details for the purposes of charging for OneClick, you will need to enter those now. In my case, I'll just click Yes. And my admin account has been created. Now at this stage here, I'm prompted to log into OneClick. I don't actually need to do that because I'm in the process of running the migration. So I can simply close my internet browser now and continue with the migration. I'll click OK on that message there. And I'm now presented with a list of all the clients that will be migrated. And the migration process is fairly straightforward. All I'm going to do is hit the Migrate button and then let the migration run. The migration will process around about 100 clients per hour. So if you've got 800 clients, for instance, the migration will take the majority of the day to run. We encourage you to run your migration during business hours in case there are any problems. In my case, I'm fairly confident there will be no problems, and all we should see is over the next couple of minutes, each of these clients should have their status changed to migrated successfully. If by chance you get any errors, the first thing you can try is to click the Close button and come back in and start the migration again, because the most common problem that you might have is your system timing out during the migration. If you have a problem and you've closed and restarted the migration and you still have a problem, you can then click on the hyperlink that would say in red would say failed, and you'll be able to read some information that, to be honest, is reasonably technical. And at that stage, what you would need to do is log a support call and copy and paste any information that may appear relevant into your support request, and one of our technical team will contact you to investigate and resolve the problem. In my case, the migration will be finished in a few moments. And so my migration has now finished. I'm going to click Finish on the migration screen. And now let's just look at a couple of things before we then go and have a look at the migration from the client side. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to click on my clients, search for all, and you will see that I have my clients grouped based on their activation status. I'll remove that and show you how I group that. So there's a field here called OneClick User. If I drag that up into the field above, I'm now able to group my clients and see whether they're activated or not. All Portal clients are migrated as if they've been activated already, although they have the same status as they did when they were in Portal. So Matthew Bolt was a client who had been sent a Portal activation email but never actually activated his account. The other clients listed here had activated their Portal accounts. Their status has transferred over to OneClick, even though they may not yet have activated their OneClick accounts. By clicking on the link in the migration email they will have received. Let's just take a look at one of the clients, Mr. John Bain. We still have a message center as we did in Portal, and we still have all the messages and documents that had been sent to and from while in Portal. We also see up here his activation status, and if we want to activate this client for any additional OneClick functionality, we can click on OneClick Features. We can see a list of the additional functionality that we can add, and if we want to activate them for VAT returns, we could highlight VAT returns, click the arrow, acknowledge the statement here and hit OK, and then when we hit OK, that client will be sent an additional email to say that they are now activated for VAT returns. We won't do that in this case. One other thing that I'd like to point out now before we go and activate clients is under File, Maintenance, OneClick, we have Client Team Defaults. And when I click on this, you had Client Team Defaults in Portal, but over here we now have an additional column to show whether the client should see the employee's role when they log into OneClick and view what's called the Client Team area. This will make a little bit more sense when you watch the next video, which shows a client activating their OneClick account, logging into that account, and you will then see the Client Team area. One other thing that we'll quickly look at is under File, Maintenance, OneClick, Customization. As I mentioned in one of the earlier videos, everything that we had configured in Portal has been transferred over to OneClick. You can now make any changes that might be necessary. So now, please watch the next video, which demonstrates the migration process from the point of view of the client. Your client receives an email showing that they have been migrated, and what do they do next?